What's up, guys? It is RGT85. Hope everyone is having a great Thursday, but surprise, surprise, we got video game news to talk about. So if you like video game news and video game discussions, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. And we're going to start things off with a franchise that I don't think I've ever talked about it before on this channel, and that is Quake. Now, evidently, QuakeCon is happening from today, August 19th, until August 21st in Dallas, Texas. But I never really pay attention to QuakeCon because I don't know, it's kind of weird when you think about it because it's called QuakeCon, but when was the last time Quake was like really relevant? Looking at the history of Quake though, you know, it is definitely one of the most beloved franchises. Quake, of course, was the first 3D first-person shooter games to actually use 3D character models instead of just flat 2D character models. It was revolutionary at the time, and I remember the first time I played Quake was actually at a friend of mine's house. It really wasn't my friend, it was more my dad's friend's son. We went over to this guy's house for dinner, and like the kid kind of looked like Chucky from Child's Play, and he kind of acted like Chucky from Child's Play too, which is probably why we never became friends. But he had a PC and he had Doom on there, and he had a free shareware version of Quake, and I remember playing that game and I was just like, wow, this is some next level stuff here. This is crazy. My Sega Genesis can't do this. And then of course I ended up playing through Quake on the Sega Saturn, and I was a Quake fan. Yes, I know the Saturn version of the game wasn't all that great, but it was all I had. I'm not a PC gamer. I never will be a PC gamer. But one of the draws to Quake for me just was the sort of evil intentions of the game. You know, it was very dark, it was very brooding. Trent Reznor actually worked on the soundtrack of the game as well, and I was a Nine Inch Nails fan at the time, so it was just a cool thing. It was a very cool video game. Well, it seems like we're getting a Quake announcement. Now, we haven't gotten a new Quake game, as far as I know, since the Xbox 360, which was a launch title for the system. I remember picking it up and having a lot of fun with it, but it seems like Quake is going to be revealed at QuakeCon later today, and the game is simply called Quake. An ESRB listing for the game went up this morning, and basically it says it's a first-person shooter, you're a soldier, you're traversing through maze-like areas, so it's either going to be one of two things. This could potentially be a Quake reboot, where they reboot the franchise and try to bring it back, maybe something like we saw with the Doom reboot, or it could just simply be a remaster of the original Quake. Now, looking over the platforms listed, they got Windows PC, PlayStation 4, PS5, Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series platforms, which that's kind of a weird name. Just put Series X and S on there, like it sounds a little bit better. So to me, I'm sort of more leaning towards a remaster of the original Quake, which, you know, that's fine. A lot of people that are alive right now did not play Quake. You know, Quake is well over 20 years old, and a lot of gamers out there aren't even 20 years old. So I feel like this would be a good way to introduce them into the franchise and sort of see if there is an interest in a new Quake game. Now, I'm sure we'll learn more about this game today at QuakeCon, but I'm definitely excited to see what ends up happening with this. Like I said, I have fond memories of playing Quake on my Sega Saturn with the little Trent Reznor soundtrack that it had and a little da-da-da-da-da intro song on it. It's just a really cool, fun, demon-based first-person shooter, and it's a game that I feel like everyone should play because it's one of the most monumental successes in first-person shooter games. Please have some online play with this though, because the online in Quake was really, really fun. It was pretty much like Quake and Unreal were like the games you played on the PC back in the day online for competitive first-person shooters. So yes, it appears we're getting Quake back again, and you should be on the lookout for this. Next up, I want to talk about a game that I've been playing on my Xbox Series X recently. This game is also available on the PlayStation systems, it's available on PC, and it will be coming out on the Nintendo Switch, and that is a game called Action Arcade Wrestling. Now, upon first glance, it looks like, you know, your basic arcade wrestling game. It sort of has a little bit of a WrestleFest feel to it. There's crazy weapons you could do. There's crazy characters that are in the game. Really, it doesn't look like that big of a deal of a game. And when I first started playing this game, I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. You know, I picked up a copy. I believe it was like $11 or $12 on sale on the Xbox Series X. The MSRP on it is like $15 though. But really, you know, it's not going to break the bank to check out a new wrestling game. It was originally supposed to be a Chikara wrestling game, which was a popular independent company that unfortunately it looks like the owner was like, you know, an absolute piece of shit. So they got rid of the Chikara license and basically just did this action arcade wrestling game. So you might be saying to yourself, well, why are you talking about this? It looks pretty vanilla. You know, it just looks like an arcade style wrestling game. Well, here's where things get very fun, because on the console versions of this game, you can actually download created wrestlers and created arenas. Now, what's cool about this is, since this is a PC game originally, there are already hundreds of CAWs and hundreds of arenas that you can access, and they're real logos and stuff. stuff. I currently have like an early 1990s WWF roster with like the 1-2-3 Kid, Razor Ramon, Old School Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, you know, even like jobbers and stuff like that. And I have the actual arenas to go alongside of it. And all of the calls have the moves of these original characters. I even have an AEW roster with people like Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, Penta, Darby Allin, and they've done a really good job with the created wrestlers for this game and the created arenas. So it really feels like a game that you can make it all on your own. And it's got very quick loading times as well. I absolutely love this freaking game. I will do a review on it when it comes out on the Nintendo Switch. I reached out to the developer to ask them if this was coming to the Switch, and they said, yes, it is coming to the Nintendo Switch. They're very proud of how the game runs in handheld mode. It's just going through the certification process right now. But if you like wrestling, this is a game you need to have on your radar. Like I said, we'll do a full review of it when it comes out on the Switch, but this game is really, really fun. And that's really what matters to me in wrestling games, is fun. We'll get more into it when it comes out, but definitely a game you should have on your radar. If you only own an Xbox or a PlayStation, definitely recommend checking it out on there as well, because it's an awesome game. And finally, yesterday we had our big Pokemon Presents presentation, and I, of course, did a react video to Pokemon Legends Arceus. Yes, it's Arceus, it's not Arceus like I've been saying this whole time, but really, I'm an idiot, so you should expect me to say things wrong because I'm just an idiot. But yes, it is Pokemon Legends Arceus. Make sure you guys check out that video if you haven't yet. I sort of give my in-depth thoughts on what I thought about that game. Now, of course, at this Pokemon Presents presentation, we got some other stuff as well. We got updates for Pokemon Unite, we got a deeper look at Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, two games that I could absolutely care less about these games. I know a lot of people out there are stoked for them. I'm happy for you. I'm not a gaming, you know, gatekeeper or anything like that. Like whatever you like, it's cool. But just for me, I don't care about them. But there was actually another Pokemon related announcement that happened at this event that I find very, very interesting. And on the surface level, it doesn't really seem that interesting. And that is that a new Pokemon themed Nintendo Switch Lite system will be releasing on November 5th. Now, this is a metallic gray console. It features silver and gold colored designs on it that spotlight, oh, I'm gonna try this, Dialga and Palkia. Why can't they make Pokemon names be easy? Like, call one Rock, call one Soda Can, call one something nice and simple. You don't need to get all crazy with these names, but there's like over 900 Pokemon now, so I guess you do have to be original with this. Now, like I said, on the surface level, this doesn't seem like a really big deal. We've seen a couple variants be added to the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite. We, of course, just recently had that interesting sort of bluish, purplish Nintendo Switch Lite release that seemed to be somewhat popular, but the more I thought about this, the more I think there's more to this story. Now, when looking at this system, it definitely looks like that Nintendo DS Lite that came out that was Pokemon themed, and I like that aesthetic. I like that look to it. Black and gold is a very cool aesthetic. Black and silver is as well. So I think it looks very cool, but why would Nintendo be doing this with the Nintendo Switch Lite? And I think once you actually research why they're doing it and look at the answer to it, it makes sense. And that is the Nintendo Switch Lite, it's not doing all that great in terms of system sales. We, of course, constantly get updates from Nintendo about new system sales for the Nintendo Switch. We've seen the Nintendo Switch has sold over 90 million units. It's doing very successful, but the Nintendo Switch Lite just hasn't really sort of captivated the marketplace like they thought they would with this system. Sales have been constantly going down on this system, and it's not really trending in the way that I feel like Nintendo thought it was going to trend. Now, of course, the Nintendo Switch Lite is a more budget entry system, coming in at $199.99 as opposed to $300 for the Nintendo Switch. And of course, you also have the Nintendo Switch OLED coming in at $350. So it's a budget entry system, but of course you can't connect it to your television. So if like this is your main Nintendo Switch system, you're kind of at a disadvantage because you don't have the docking capabilities. But I feel like this is what Nintendo needs to do with the Nintendo Switch Lite in order to drum up interest in this, or maybe even in order to get rid of Nintendo Switch Lite systems that they have had created and maybe are just sort of sitting there, to add sort of themes to it and make different variants of it. Like, look at the Nintendo DS and look at the Nintendo 3DS and the 2DS. How many system variants were available for those things? There was hundreds of system variants for them, and they all looked really cool and made it sort of a collectible thing. I think Nintendo needs to treat the Nintendo Switch Lite exactly how it is, and that is as a handheld. As a handheld Nintendo system, you expect to have different colors. You expect to have different variants. It's pretty much been that way ever since the Game Boy Pocket. When the Game Boy Pocket came to the marketplace and it had a bunch of funky colors you could choose from 90s kids that were like, oh, we want all these colors and stuff like that. Ever since then, Nintendo has always done a really good job of sort of making their systems interesting with these different variants. And I think that's the reason why they are doing this with the Pokemon system that will be releasing on November 5th. This is really a litmus test to sort of gauge the interest in the Nintendo Switch Lite. If you release a Nintendo Switch Lite with a Pokemon theme on it and it's not selling very well, maybe it's time to sort of move on from the Lite system of the Nintendo Switch because people maybe just aren't interested in it. So I'm very curious to see how this all plays out. It's nice to see another variant come to the Nintendo Switch Lite family, but I think it's going to be sort of a make or break for this system to see whether Nintendo pursues this more deeply or not when it comes to further revisions of the Switch Lite. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comments section down below. And as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. If you watched my video from the other day, you would know that I'm currently house shopping. I put in a bid. I looked at 2 places the other day. I put in a bid on one. They forgot to tell us that the people living in there were going to be living in there until February, but they liked my offer. But you know, the people are going to be living in there until February, so unfortunately I had to pass on them. I put in an offer on the second place. I actually find out tonight what's going on with that. I think the listing agent is lying to me and my realtor about this listing because I don't know, there's a lot of weird stuff going on as far as other offers are concerned on this place that we're calling his bluff. We are trying to call his bluff, and we'll see how it plays out. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.